Okay, let's do it.
Stand by, everyone. Straight to you, Wolf.
Long Gear 1, track go.
We're here at the University of Maryland's engineering department to look at the whole question of whether electromagnetic interference is causing some of the throttles in Toyotas and possibly other vehicles to kind of open up unintentionally. That's something that federal investigators are looking at as a possibility. Hear this ringing behind me? We're showing you what electromagnetic interference is. Say this television is a car. The car's function is rolling along normally. Here's a cell phone ringing. When it gets close to that, you can see how the audio of the television signal changes. You can hear the interference. That's essentially, it's interfering with the car's function. To talk more about this, we're joined by Dr. Michael Pecht. He's a professor of electronics reliability here at the University of Maryland, also the author of a book called Sudden Acceleration. It's all about the phenomenon of unintended and sudden acceleration in vehicles. It's a book that's more than 10 years old, but it is considered very definitive on this subject. So, Dr. Pecht, how did this all work as far as just, you know, if this is a car functioning normally, a simple cell phone signal that's close to it triggers a kind of a different reaction?
Yeah, so what happens is that the cell phone is getting a signal, and at the same time, when it receives a signal, it sends out a signal. That signal is going through the air. It hits the wires in the television set, in this case. And again, the television set could represent a computer or the engine control computer in a car. It hits those wires and it sends a signal through those wires, and that signal causes some kind of malfunction. In this case, the malfunction is an audio malfunction, so to speak, but it's possible it could cause some other malfunction depending on the design of the car.
And of course, part of the problem is cars these days, the way they're laid out, their throttles and their acceleration is controlled not by cables anymore, not by simple mechanics, but by computers and sensors, right?
Exactly. The car companies are trying to put more functions, more features into a small place, make them completely controlled by a computer. In today's cars, there's more than 20 microprocessors.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay, we're going to show you that one more time. Dr. Michael Azarian, a research scientist, is going to show us again. Here's the car. You know, the sound is kind of operating normally on the TV. The TV is the car. We're going to get a phone call. Again, even before it starts ringing, it's interfering with the sound of the television, meaning the function of the automobile in this case. Now we're going to show you kind of under the hood of a Camry, some of the components in a Camry that can be susceptible to this. Now you're looking under the hood of an idling 2005 Toyota Camry. We have to make very clear this is not among the models of Camrys that are being recalled and being looked at for the sudden acceleration problems, but it has a somewhat similar layout. Those Camrys came along a couple of years after this one did, but this can serve as a basic illustrator for some of the components underneath the hood of a Toyota or really almost any modern vehicle these days that could be susceptible to electromagnetic interference. Dr. Pecht, what are we talking about here? Is it mostly the wires, right?
Well, there's the wires. Of course, there's going to be a control unit to control the engine, and but all these wires hook up to the control unit. The control unit has wires that go back to the engine to control.
And that control unit is inside the passenger compartment.
Yes, typically.
Right. And so, you know, when you look at these wires, like there are coils under here, these coils are magnets, right?
Exactly.
And can attract those signals.
And those magnets can send out a magnetic signal, and those magnetic signals can affect the various wires and cause a current, cause an electrical signal in those wires, and hopefully they wouldn't cause a problem, but under some conditions like power lines or something like that, the strength could be high enough that it could cause a signal.
And you think power lines could really be kind of one of the culprits here, maybe even more than cell phones or BlackBerries?
It's possible. It depends on the strength of the power line or the strength of the cell phone.
Now what we notice in, you know, again, this is not just unique to the Toyota or the Camry. Many, many cars, makes and models are laid out like this. The wires are unshielded. We had another expert tell us that may be an issue here. The fact that the wires are not shielded could make them more susceptible to the interference. If they were shielded, could that cut down on it?
Absolutely. So it's a very big concern, especially in safety critical devices, that wires are shielded so they won't be susceptible to electromagnetic interference.